All right, Steeler fans, it is time for the mailbag segment. For those of you that are watching this on YouTube, I take this segment and put it on your YouTube channel. Quick call to action for you. Subscribe, like to our channel so that you don't miss any of the videos that we put out, not just my Let's Ride podcast, my Monday morning conversation, and not just my mailbag segment, but we have some other player profiles that are coming out with Coach KT Smith. We've got plenty of shorts for you to enjoy. We've got our live shows there. You don't want to miss it. Like and subscribe to the channel today. Now, let's get to the mailbag. If you don't know how this works, go to Twitter, find me at jhartman, HARTMAN_PIT. And what you do is on Tuesday morning, I put out a tweet. You respond to the tweet. I answer it live on the show on Wednesday. Let's get through this. Believers, he asked, Jeff, thoughts on adding another game to the regular season? Is it overkill or do you welcome the extra game? The NFL will have to make some changes, roster size, 2 bye weeks, changing training camp and playoff dates, etc. So I got to be honest. I heard about these rumors and we knew it was coming. No one should have been shocked or should be shocked that the NFL is considering going to an 18th game. No one, because they're money hungry and that's how they're going to make more money is by adding more games. Since it's going to happen, I'm not going to fight it. Do I think it's smart? No, not necessarily. Do I welcome them going back to an even number? Yes, that's the way my brain works. I don't like this odd number of 17. They will have to make some changes. And I don't know if they're ready with the NFLPA and things like that. They're going to have to change training camp. They're going to have to change how they practice. What do they do with the preseason? Now they have 3 games. They knock it down to 2. It'll be really tough to explain how crappy the product will be in the early stages of the season, all based on the fact that they can't practice the way they want. They can't prep in terms of the preseason. I love NFL football, but I do think that's a little bit too much unless they add in a second bye week. I think it's one of those situations where I just keep it where it is. That's what I thought on it. The Believers also added the Ride or Die Crew poll of the week. He said the NFL is exploring another kickoff idea. What do you want an NFL kickoff to be? The options were the old way, last few years, proposed new way, and get rid of kickoffs. The new way, the proposal is that they basically want to say if you have to announce that you're going to do an onside kick. So think about in Super Bowl 30 in 1995, Steelers Cowboys in Arizona, when to start the second half, Bill Cowher shocks the world and does an onside kick, which is recovered, I believe, by Dion Figures. And it sparked the Steelers, and they almost came back and won that game. Think about if he had to come out in the second half and say, oh, hey, Dallas, Mr. Switzer over there, we're going onside. Get yourselves ready. Here we go. It would really take away the element of surprise. Now, that doesn't happen a lot anymore in the NFL, the way they have the rules with players shifting around and stuff. But still, just my answer to this was just keep it the way it was the last few years. They can still do onside kicks. It's not likely. The kickoff has basically been eliminated from the game anyways. Just leave it the way it is. Let's go to Jeff Coons, our buddy up north who misspells his name. He said, hi, Jeff, with free agency looming next week, what is the first position the Steelers address, and what should be the first position the Steelers address? The only correct answer is punter. He used the hashtag Weasel Boy, referring to Jordan Berry. No, do not put that on me, Ricky Bobby. All right, so with Jeff Coons, the answer was who? Let's hear, what position do I think, or what is the first position the Steelers address? I think that the first position they address, I think it's going to be interior offensive line, a person that can play center. What should the first position be? I think it should be the interior offensive line. Don't be surprised if a quarterback is early too. Don't be surprised. Let's go to Paul Orlando. Without making any free agent moves, when the Steelers pick at 20, if offensive tackle Armarius Mims and center Jackson Powers-Johnson are both available, who do you pick and who do you think the Steelers pick? So for me, this was actually interesting. So I covered, there was a 2-round mock draft, which was done by Jordan Reed of ESPN. And it's funny that you say these players in particular, because he had the Steelers taking Mims at pick 20 and Jackson Powers-Johnson was available and went to the Miami Dolphins at 21. So I thought that was pretty interesting that the Steelers passed on the center to go with the tackle. And then, it's definitely interesting in terms of who do I think they would pick and who would I pick. I think this is a really deep tackle class, but I still think you can get quality center play in the second round. So I would definitely go with Mims. If I'm high on Mims, if the Steelers are high on Mims, I think the Steelers would follow suit as well. Jackson Powers-Johnson is a great prospect. And I'm not saying he's going to be awful. I just think that the Steelers would be best to say, okay, let's go out. And this is also going to depend on free agency. Let's go out and let's try and get our tackle. So we have our bookend tackles that are only a year apart in Broderick Jones and in this case, Mims. And let's see what we can build off of that. That's what I would do. And I honestly think that's what the Steelers will do too. Let's go to Brian Haynes. He said, are they holding their cards inside the vest on this one? No combine interview and don't want the veterans. Do you believe this, or is it just some smoke and mirrors so they can surprise everyone? And it's a screenshot where it says the Steelers don't want Russ. This was coming from an Athletic report. And the Athletic is predominantly Mark Cabali, that he heard that the Steelers are not interested in any big name quarterbacks. Wow, that sounds familiar. Who said that? Who said that before this? Oh, that's right. It was me. It was me. I told you all this like a month ago. I think that Russell Wilson, again, only if they can't bring back Mason Rudolph, would he be an option if he wants to go there. He's going to be a free agent. He's going to be able to weigh his options. So I've been saying it all along. I've been saying it all along. I can't say it anymore. Brian asked another one. Would you trade Deontay Johnson to the Panthers for pick 33 or 64 if they offered? So you're talking a second or a third round pick? Yes, yes, and yes. I would. That's just for me. Let's go to Bob Rayberg. Steelers.com posted all Big Ben touchdown passes, probably for his birthday. Great video. 3 takeaways. Ben's escapability was amazing. Hines and Antonio Brown were awesome, and the number of wide open red zone touchdowns was incredible. Do you think Arthur Smith's scheme will be as efficient and successful in the red zone? I'm not going to sit here and lie to your face or in your ears and say that I know for a fact that Arthur Smith's red zone scheme is going to be better. But I can say, or I should pose the question, can it get worse? Can it get worse from what the Steelers had with Matt Canada? It was awful. It's horrible. So in that regard, I think it can only get better. But you talk about Ben Roethlisberger, his escapability was amazing. If you take Ben's escapability, and let's say that the Madden rating is a 95 and you tone it down to an 80, my gosh, that it would be awful. I mean, go back and watch how poor some of that offensive line play was. And Ben made the plays by holding onto the ball, eluding pressure, throwing guys off him. Just crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. All right, let's go to Steeler Fan 69. He always likes to inject a little humor. He said, my wife wanted some peace and quiet while she was cooking dinner, so I had to shut off the smoke detectors. He continues, I had a happy childhood. My dad used to put me in tires and roll me down hills. Those were some good years. And the last one, what did the driver say to the one-legged hitchhiker? Hop in. I love those. Thank you very much, Steeler Fan 69, for always injecting some humor like I suggested. All right, let's go to Nathan Van Slyke. Hey, Jeff, I've been seeing a few articles saying that Pittsburgh isn't interested in pursuing Russell Wilson. If they don't get Mason back because of the bidding war, who do you think they'll try and pursue at quarterback? This is where, if they don't want to go into that bidding war, they might try and get a feel for Russell Wilson. Again, they could draft a quarterback, but they're still going to need more than just one other arm. This isn't like last year. Last year, they had Pickett, Trubisky. They just needed the third arm, and that ended up being Mason Rudolph. They honestly are going to need to get a free agent. I would be fine with 2. So let's say they bring back Mason Rudolph. I'd also sign Joshua Dobbs on the cheap. And if they want to draft a late round pick, take a flyer on a quarterback that could be like a Brian St. Pierre, who never had any aspirations of being a starter. He was literally drafted to be a backup, then I'm fine with that too. So they're going to have to make moves at the quarterback position. So stay tuned. It's going to happen. Brian Haynes asks another one. Thinking about free agency, assuming they're available and without tags, would you rather get Patrick Queen or Connor Williams? Assume both cost the same. I don't know. Patrick Queen is tough for me because it has nothing to do with him playing for the Ravens. It has everything to do with the fact that I've always wondered how good is this guy? His first round draft pick, I believe, out of LSU. He's got a ton of potential. I would probably go with Patrick Queen. He does have that athleticism that you want on the inside, would pair really well with an Landon Roberts, who's more of your thumper downhill. Mark Robinson could also spell Landon Roberts in that role. Patrick Queen could do a lot of the coverage stuff. If it costs the same, but they're probably going to cost too much money. Let's go to James. He asks, keep hearing buzz around a potential Deontay Johnson trade, and now he's not a good fit in Arthur Smith's system. Not saying Deontay Johnson and Calvin Austin III are the same player. However, what makes Calvin Austin III any better of a fit? Asking because it seems like an Arthur Smith receiver is big and physical. I don't think anyone's saying that Calvin Austin is a great fit for Arthur Smith's scheme. I think that they're just looking at what Deontay Johnson does. He's not that straight line guy. Calvin Austin is. So you might not be a big, strong receiver, but if you can get vertical separation and you can stretch the field, there's value in that. Deontay Johnson doesn't really bring that. He is your intermediate, great route runner, can create that separation, but he's not going to go deep. That's where I think a lot of people are differing between Calvin Austin and Deontay Johnson. Not taking away from Deontay Johnson, and Calvin Austin cannot, at this stage in his career, do what Deontay Johnson does. So you can't intertwine them. You can't say, well, if we get rid of Deontay Johnson, Calvin Austin will do that. He can't yet. He doesn't do that yet. So you cannot do that. It's not a tit for tat thing. Let's go to Doc M, Southside Doc. He asks, why would there be a national view that the front office isn't as respected around the league as the fans believe it should? What has it not done to deserve respect? Now, the national view, a lot of people are looking at the front office and they're starting to see also that NFLPA grades that came out, and Art Rooney II gets an F, Mike Tomlin gets an A. It is what it is. A lot of people are saying that, well, that speaks volumes about what the players feel about ownership. So that taints it a little bit. But then also, when you're looking at the national view, a lot of people see them saying, we're just going to run it back with Kenny. Let's go Kenny Pickett. We'll give him another shot. And they think that is, well, that's not a winning culture. That's not a team that really wants to win. And a lot of people locally have said that they're turning into the Pirates. Like they're not really trying. They're not doing everything they can at their disposal. I'm not saying I believe that, but I think that all that stuff, it kind of creates this perfect storm of you have the national talking heads, your Stephen A. Smith screaming at the TV monitor about how the Steelers don't care and they don't win. Then you see these NFLPA grades come out and Art Rooney II gets an F, and that comes from players and families of the players. And then you see them get their facilities get trashed and it looks bad. It's a bad optic. And that's when it just starts to pick up steam. That's where it's coming from. Let's see what they do in free agency, though. Zach Farnsworth asks, how do you think a game would play out between the Killer Bees era offense versus the early 2000s Steelers defense? This is with everyone healthy. Thank you for the great content. Thank you, Zach. And Zach, I know you're always looking forward to the golf mailbag. That'll be coming out on Wednesday. So today, make sure you check that out because you always participate and I do appreciate it. So Killer Bee era offense versus early 2000s Steelers defense. To me, that early 2000s defense smacks the crap out of the Killer Bee offense. Yeah, the Killer Bee offense was great, but who was it? It was Ben in his prime. Antonio Brown was great. Le'Veon Bell was really, really good. The offensive line was probably the best it was during Ben's career. But that defense was suffocating. Le'Veon Bell wouldn't have been dancing around at the line of scrimmage. He would have been taken down for losses. Antonio Brown, that's the one guy that might have made an impact. But I have a feeling that the Ike Taylor / Troy Polamalu would have probably done a good job negating him. I'm going to take the defense all day and every day. Steelers 419. So there's been a lot of talk surrounding the quarterback of the future, which is fair. In my opinion, the Steelers still need center, offensive tackle, cornerback 2, nickel cornerback, safety, and 1 or 2 inside linebackers. With these additions and the change at offensive coordinator, I think Kenny could thrive. What do you consider the biggest team need? I think that the one thing I keep on thinking about is that there's more holes on the defensive side, but more areas of upgrading on the offensive side. I hope that makes sense. It does in my head. That doesn't necessarily always mean it conveys through the podcast. I think that the Steelers, the biggest holes, or they have more holes on defense that they could fill, but I think that the biggest need for upgrading is on offense. So I'm talking center, offensive tackle. I think you find those pieces, and then it's going to elevate someone like Kenny Pickett to be able to have more time in the pocket, to trust his protection, to trust that he's not going to have to do his spin out of the pocket and try and, loop out of a clean pocket necessarily. Comes down to trust. I'm going to say it's the offensive line. John Pennington says, Jeff, do you think the Steelers draft a quarterback in one of these rounds to start grooming in case Kenny doesn't get it done this season? I do think they draft a quarterback late, but not early. And it's not going to be anyone they're going to groom to be the next guy. Like I said, think Brian St. Pierre, think Dennis Dixon, guys that came in, they served as backups, and then they moved on with their careers. They were never expected to be the starter. The Steelers, the only way they bring in someone that could potentially be a starter is if they bring back Mason Rudolph and sign him to like a 3-year deal. That's the only way. Or a Russell Wilson. That's it. Other than that, I think they're just going to go into this season. This sucks when I say it out loud. They're going to go into this season saying, let's see what we have with Kenny. Last question from Tom Muir. Why do you think the Steelers are shopping Deontay Johnson? Is it his character? Is his character rubbing off on George Pickens, his preference for Mason over Kenny, or his cap hit? Can't really blame his lack of production under Canada's offense. And then he writes, Oklahoma Joe's sponsored this man. For those that are on YouTube, you've probably seen my Steelers grilling thoughts, which I know Oklahoma Joe sees on Twitter, and they refuse to even have a conversation with me about potentially doing one of those a week to bring some attention to your Twitter feed that doesn't even have 3,000 followers, and you're a major grill company that's in Lowe's and everywhere else. Wake up, people. Thank you for bringing that up, Tom. To answer your question about Deontay Johnson, I think it's multifaceted. I think that he's going into the final year of a contract. You're kind of most likely concerned about what the Steelers and what Deontay Johnson's going to want. Is he going to hold out? Is he going to want a new deal and basically, or of a hold in, as they call it now? You don't want that. You can't have that. He's not a leader. People can say what they want. Oh, he's the veteran. Sure, he's the veteran, but he's not a leader. They might want someone that's a leader in there that is going to set a great example. Maybe they don't think it's Deontay Johnson. I don't know that for a fact. The cap hit's not going to be great either. If they were to trade him, I think they'd save themselves just under $10 million. So there's a lot of reasons, but no, I can't blame him for his lack of production in Canada's offense with a rookie quarterback and Mitch Trubisky. Are you serious? It's awful. Absolutely atrocious. All right, that does it for the mailbag segment. Thank you all very much for participating. I appreciate it. This Friday, we've got the All Bets Are Off segment coming up. You know how we do that every single week. Jeremy Jerome Betts, who is probably all geeked out of his mind after the combine. So brace yourselves, people. But that does it for me. Make sure you're on the lookout for all of our content at SteelCurtainNetwork.com and all of our podcasts here at the Steel Curtain Network. In the meantime, you know how we finish up. Be safe, be kind, and God bless. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you on Friday.